You're sitting in a group. People are talking, laughing, jumping from one topic to the next. The energy is easy. Everyone seems fine. But you're not fully there. Part of your mind has already wandered somewhere else. You're thinking about something someone said 3 minutes ago. You're noticing the way one person keeps interrupting another. You're wondering if this conversation means anything at all to anyone, or if everyone is just filling silence. And then you catch yourself. You smile. You nod. You say something normal. Because you've learned how to look present even when you're not. Here's what's strange, though. This doesn't happen once in a while. It happens almost every time. In work meetings, at family dinners, at social events you are actually looking forward to. You show up, you try, and somewhere in the middle of it, you drift. Not because you're bored exactly, because something about it doesn't reach you. And here's the question no one asks out loud. What if it's not about the people? What if something is happening inside your mind that makes normal social life feel slightly off? Not wrong, just not quite enough. There's an answer to that, but it's not the one most people expect, and it starts much earlier than the moment you walked into that room. You've probably noticed it in smaller ways too. The way you replay conversations after they happen. The way you need time alone to feel like yourself again. The way you sometimes feel more connected to an idea, a book, or a quiet moment than to a room full of people. Most people around you don't seem to do this. They leave a gathering and just move on. You leave and spend an hour processing what happened, what was said, what was left unsaid, what it all might mean. Psychologists call this kind of thinking high dispositional reflection. It means your brain doesn't just experience things, it immediately begins to analyze them, layer by layer, looking for meaning underneath the obvious surface. People who think this way tend to notice more. They pick up on emotional shifts in a room before anyone names them. They sense when something is slightly off in a conversation, even when they can't explain why. They ask questions that go deeper than what the moment actually called for. Research in personality psychology suggests that highly reflective people process social information differently. Where most people take a conversation at face value, the reflective mind is already asking what's underneath it. What's really being communicated here? Why did they say it that way? What does this dynamic actually mean? That sounds like a strength, and it is. But it also means you are doing far more cognitive work in every social interaction than the people around you. And that gap between how you process the world and how most others do is at the center of something most people never fully understand about themselves. Here's the deeper part. This pattern didn't appear randomly. Something in how your brain is wired made you this way. And once you understand what's actually happening inside, the loneliness of it starts to make a different kind of sense. Think of your brain as having two main response systems running at the same time. The first is your social reward system. When you connect with someone, when a conversation flows, when someone really gets you, your brain releases dopamine. It's a signal that says, this is worth your energy. Keep going. This is good. The second is your threat detection system. When something feels off, when a conversation is hollow, when someone's words don't match their tone, when the environment feels overstimulating, your brain sends a quiet stress signal, low level, almost invisible, but constant. Here's what happens in deep thinkers specifically. The threat system activates more easily in social settings, not because those settings are actually dangerous, but because the reflective mind is picking up on so much more information at once. Subtle emotional cues, inconsistencies, undertones, unspoken tension. The brain is processing all of it simultaneously, and that level of input triggers a low but real stress response. At the same time, dopamine is harder to earn, because the reward system in a reflective mind is calibrated for depth, meaning, genuine resonance. Small talk doesn't reach that threshold. Casual group conversations rarely do either. So the brain signals, not enough here, and you feel it as a kind of quiet flatness. Think of it like a high-resolution screen trying to watch a low-quality video. The screen works perfectly, but the input isn't rich enough to use what the screen is actually capable of. So here's the mental model. Dopamine requires depth. The threat system activates on overload. This means most social environments are simultaneously understimulating and overstimulating at the same time. Not enough meaning, too much noise. That combination is exhausting in a way that's almost impossible to explain to someone who doesn't experience it. The harder part isn't the gatherings. The harder part is what this pattern costs you over time. In relationships, it shows up as a constant, quiet dissatisfaction. You want real connection. You can feel when it's missing. And because you feel it so clearly, shallow friendships don't just feel boring. They feel lonely in a way that's almost worse than being alone. You're surrounded by people and still unreached. So you start pulling back. Not all at once, gradually. You stop reaching out as much. You decline invitations that used to feel obligatory. You let certain friendships fade without guilt because maintaining them required pretending to be satisfied with something that wasn't satisfying. And slowly, your circle gets smaller. From the outside, this looks like a problem. And sometimes you believe it too. You wonder if there's something wrong with how you connect, whether you're too difficult, whether normal people just don't do this, whether you're broken in some quiet, invisible way. At work, it shows up differently. You do better in one-on-one conversations than group settings. You're more effective when you can think alone before being asked to speak. You have insights that feel obvious to you, but land as unexpectedly sharp to others. And yet the performative parts, the small talk, the networking, the social maintenance, drain you in ways that feel disproportionate to what they actually require. In your own self-image, the cost is this. You start to see your depth as a burden, something that makes you hard to be around, something that keeps you slightly outside the easy warmth that other people seem to share without effort. And that belief, that your depth is the problem, is the most damaging part of all. Here's what's actually true. The same trait that makes social life harder is the exact trait that makes your closest relationships unusually deep. Because when you do connect with someone, really connect, you bring a level of presence and understanding that most people never experience from another person. You notice things about them they haven't said out loud. You remember what matters to them. You ask the question that opens something up instead of closing it down. The people who know you well don't experience you as difficult. They experience you as rare. Psychologists who study relationship quality versus quantity consistently find that deep, meaningful connections produce more psychological well-being than large, shallow social networks. You were never optimized for quantity. Your mind was built for something more specific, something fewer people can offer, and something fewer people can fully receive. This isn't a reframe designed to make you feel better. It's just accurate. The trait that isolates you in a crowd is the same trait that makes you irreplaceable in a room of one. Remember that moment at the beginning, sitting in the group, half there, the conversation moving around you while your mind was already somewhere else? That wasn't disconnection. That was your brain doing what it does, searching for depth in an environment that wasn't offering it, protecting you from investing in something that wouldn't return what you needed. Here's the model. Deep thinking creates a high threshold for social reward. A high threshold means most environments don't meet it. When they don't, your brain reads the interaction as costly rather than nourishing, and you withdraw, slowly, toward fewer but realer connections.